Fairly well scattered, not particularly heavy, but it will be a fairly wet and increasingly windy day across the far north of Scotland, and everywhere fairly cool for the end of August, high teens for most at best. Saturday is a similar story. Again, yes, some sunshine, but plenty of showers. Showers on Saturday could be fairly heavy, quite slow moving in places, with the risk of thunder as well. Quite blustery across parts of Wales and southwest England. Another cool feeling day. Staying cool all weekend, but after some heavy showers on Saturday, should turn a bit drier for most of us.
The temperature's rising. Boxed Solar, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Weeknights on GB News from 6 p.m. You'll always get drama.
Please stop, Michelle.
I know, yeah.
Please stop.
Should I just shut up?
Romance.
You like me, I like you. There you go.
There you are. Well, don't tell anybody.
Adventure.
Etc.
That's the whole point. But
And action.
Sergeant, read my superstar panel that already at it. They're fighting. It's going to be quite a show.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
Do you not believe in prison?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 11 p.m. I'm Ellie Costello in the GB newsroom. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has sent his condolences to the family of the Wagner Group leader who was reportedly killed in a plane crash north of Moscow yesterday. Yevgeny Prigozhin was one of the 10 people named on the jet's passenger list. Mr. Putin described the mercenary boss as a talented businessman.
I knew Prigozhin for a very long time, since the early 1990s. He was a man with a complex destiny, and he made serious mistakes in life. He achieved the results he needed, both for himself and when I asked him for the common cause, as in these last months. He was a talented person, a talented businessman. He worked not only in our country and worked with results, but also abroad in Africa in particular.
GB News understands the government is looking to block the former NatWest chief executive's multi-million-pound payout. Dame Alison Rose quit after it emerged she'd talked about Nigel Farage's finances to a journalist. Her actions are being independently investigated. Donald Trump is due to surrender himself on charges of trying to overturn the result of the 2020 presidential election in Georgia. These are earlier pictures of the Trump convoy leaving New Jersey to head to the Fulton County Jail in Georgia. He's facing dozens of criminal charges and will go on trial several times in the next 18 months. Meanwhile, 38-year-old Vivek Ramaswamy dominated the first Republican presidential debate last night. In an exclusive interview with GB News, Mr. Ramaswamy says America needs a patriot who speaks the truth.
I can only reunite this country if I'm doing it from the White House as the leader and the face of our movement. And what I will tell President Trump is, I know you're a patriot. I mean, he and I have a deep relationship of mutual respect. I want him as my most valued advisor, something of a mentor in that role, actually. I've got fresh legs. I'm less than half his age.
You're the rookie.
I'm gonna, yeah, and I wear it as a badge of honor. But we have to reach young people who have lost their sense of national pride in this country.
The Duchess of Sussex will reportedly join her husband at the Invictus Games in Dusseldorf in Germany next month. Prince Harry will be in attendance throughout the entirety of the Games. Before they get underway, the Duke will travel to the UK to attend a charity awards ceremony on the eve of the first anniversary of the late Queen's death. And finally, an 11-year-old boy from Northumberland took his maths GCSE 5 years early and has now achieved the highest grade, a 9, equivalent to an A star. Harry Thew, who took the exam in Year 6 at Bede Academy in Blyth, says his performance was quite good. His mum says he's always loved puzzles, numbers and logic. Impressive stuff. This is GB News across the UK, on TV, in your car, on digital radio and on your smart speaker by saying, play GB News. Now it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners, the paper preview show with a difference. It's got 3 comedians taking you through the next day's newspapers. I'm one of the comedians, I'm Leo Kearson. I'm joined tonight by the Robson and Jerome of UK comedy, Francis Foster and Bruce Devlin. How are you both doing?
I'm fairly depressed after that.
I'm taking it as a compliment.
Are you? OK, fine, I will as well then.
Yeah,
my
sharp
apologies.
success. And you're just back from the Edinburgh Fringe.
I am, yeah.
How was it for you?
I'm fine, yeah, it was okay. No, a bizarre thing happened last night, but I don't think I can actually... I was telling you earlier, but I don't think I can.
Involves bodily fluids.
Yes.
Anyway, let's move on and have a look at the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers. The Daily Mail leads with Putin's chilling taunt over his rival's mistake. The Sun has, with deepest sympathy, so sorry I killed him. The Guardian leads with US says bomb likely cause of Prigozhin crash. The Express has PM, vast £4 billion spend on asylum is unacceptable. The iNews has bomb blew up Putin critic's jet. And finally, the Daily Star goes different with the curse of his spooky child. And those were your front pages. And let's have a closer look at those front pages, starting with The Sun, Francis. What have they got?
Well, they've gone with the story of the tragic death of Yevgeny Prigozhin. Nobody understands or knows what actually happened, least of all Vladimir Putin. Nobody knows how he died.
I'm pretty sure the one person who does know how he died is Vladimir Putin.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, look, the reality was the moment Prigozhin started that coup against Putin, his days were numbered.
Yeah.
And especially, as someone very famously said, if you're going to come for the king, you best not miss.
Yeah.
And what's even worse is if you're going to come for the king and then halfway through bottle it and then go, oh no, I'm really sorry. Yeah, you're going to die even quicker.
Yeah, and then get talked down. He got talked out of it.
Yeah.
And was obviously given all these assurances, like, no, you can go live in Belarus, you'll be safe, you can keep your Wagner military group, you can, keep your gold mines and all your interests in Africa. We won't kill you just as long as you call off the coup. I mean, that was only ever going to last 2 months. And it was exactly 2 months. It was almost like a symbolic gesture to do it 2 months to the day.
Well, like a calling card.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. But then I've just got the Wagner bit, because I was thinking that's why I understand all the memes of the guy from the X Factor now.
Right.
They've had a resurgence.
They are.
Yes.
They are. I just like to... they are different people.
Yes. No, I realise that now. Yeah.
I mean, it would be brilliant if Wagner was leading the Wagner group.
Well, they need a leader now,
Yeah.
so maybe, it would make sense. They wouldn't need to change the brand.
No, they wouldn't need to change the font or any of that. Yeah, absolutely. The PR's done.
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, gangsters never seem to realise when they're in danger, and Russia really is a gangster state, Francis, isn't it?
Oh, of course it's a gangster state, and there's only one person who's in charge, and that is Vladimir Putin. And you would think that people would understand that how it works.
Yeah.
And if you dare to challenge him, there's only going to be one thing that happens to you. But these people never seem to learn.
So many times he's reached out and killed people. Not even in Russia, he's killed people in the UK. Litvinenko, Berezovsky, which is written up as a suicide, but it's pretty obvious that wasn't,
It's obviously awful, but it's funny as well. You look at all of these oligarchs. Fell from balcony window.
Yeah.
Drowned in the sea.
Yeah, shot himself 3 times in the head with his hands tied behind his back. It's all suicides like that.
And then climbed into a bag after he was dead and zipped it up.
And what do you think it's going to mean for the war in Ukraine? Do you think this is going to help Ukraine, or is it actually a show of strength for Putin that could because actually Prigozhin, if we could pronounce him like, my posh, my mum's posh mate pronouncing chorito, but Prigozhin is popular, or was popular with the troops on the ground.
Well, I think that this is a very canny move by Putin, because what this has demonstrated is that he's in control, he is in charge. If you come and challenge him, or if you try and undermine him, this is what will happen to you. And I think Putin is now in a stronger position than ever. And actually, Russia are actually doing pretty well in the war as well. They're not doing badly.
Well, I disagree on that. I think it's an attritional war, so, I mean, the counter-offensive is going to take time, but it's really paying off. Like, Ukraine has taken Robotyno, or however you pronounce it, and they're breaking through the first line of proper Russian defences. So I think this is just my personal opinion. I think there could be a mad rush to the sea and cut off that land bridge to Crimea. But that's just my prediction. Anyway, moving on to The Guardian now, Bruce, with a story about the North-South divide, something that we know all too well.
Well, that's true. So what is basically happening is GCSE results, apparently there's a huge disparity in the north than there is in the south. But the one person to have bucked that is the 9-year-old who took his maths GCSE in Blyth 5 years early. I can't remember his name.
Wow. Of course, with the life expectancy being lower in Scotland, you do have to rush to your exams quicker.
Well, did you pass your exams in Scotland?
Some of them, yeah.
Because I've only got standard grade Latin and music.
Latin?
Yeah.
Did that come in handy in Edinburgh?
The reason I took it was to get off PE.
Right.
Because I didn't like it, because I was bullied. Insert violence.
Right.
But yeah, no, that was the only reason I took it. And yeah, I'm surprised I passed it.
Yeah. And what do you make of this north-south divide? Because they're selling it as, London-centric policies are causing this divide. But isn't it just that, the further north you go, the thicker people get, as you and I prove?
But yeah, maybe but then I suppose we're from a different country. So I know a lot of people think Scotland is the north, but it's not. It's a different country.
I just count it as Northern Britain.
Do you?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But Eton apparently they're going to do like what the Ivy has done and kind of franchise some of their stuff out. So you're going to have regional Etons.
Right.
Not Eating, but Eton.
Yeah.
I think actually what this shows is in many ways, a poverty of ambition, particularly in places in the north, where you have communities who've been hollowed out by globalisation. The fact that there used to be a lot of industry in these communities, that now no longer exists. Yeah. And as a result of that, there's a sense of hopelessness in these places where kids will think, well, even if I do get high grades, even if I do work hard, there's no jobs anyway, so what's the point? I remember when I was working in Cornwall, there was that attitude because there's no jobs anyway. So why would you work hard? Why would you study? There's no examples of people who've actually gone on and achieved things, because even if you do quite well, you've got to leave the county. And then once you leave the county, you're not an example anymore.
Right, yeah, and I guess you get that winnowing out, that brain drain from provinces towards, big cities like Manchester and Glasgow and London as well. Anyway, moving on, what does the Express have in the front cover, Francis?
Well, the Express has gone with £4.4 billion spend on asylum is unacceptable. And the reality is we are spending an astronomical amount on the asylum system. It's simply not fit for purpose. So I'm going to read out some stats. The cost of the asylum system ballooned to $3.96 billion from $2.11 billion in a year.
It's basically doubled.
It's basically doubled, and we're not talking about millions, we're talking about billions. Yeah. And we constantly seem to be talking about it, and nothing seems to be done, and people are frustrated, and understandably so, because then they're not seeing any improvement. If anything, it's getting worse. And all we're hearing is rhetoric about stop the boats, but the boats aren't being stopped. So what's going on?
Well, later on, we're going to be talking about a story where charities and NGOs are actually behaving unethically, according to the Home Secretary, and helping migrants game the system, and also, just giving wrong advice, giving almost unlawful advice to help them, use the asylum system to stay in the country when it's not really designed for economic migrants. It's designed for people who are fleeing, genuine war zones. OK, I'll move on. And we finally got the Daily Star, Bruce. What have they got in the front cover?
Now, this is very serious. It's a curse of the spooky child. So a charity shop painting of a girl was returned time and time again because buyers can't cope with her spooky stare. My point would be, I don't know if this is true or not. It could be the fact there's just more than one in circulation and someone's just at it. But then maybe just don't go and buy filth from charity shops.
Well, do you think this is actually going to cause people to rush out and buy this painting?
No, because people say it's very, very upsetting because of the way the child looks.
Well, why? Because the face is a bit like Skew-If.
Well, yeah, and it has an imperious kind of very piercing look.
Like you're being judged.
Yes.
But some people like that.
Oh yeah, of course they do.
Some people do.
And I quite like how he's got like the sort of like the Rock. You know, when the Rock used to lift his eyebrow.
It's a girl.
It's a girl. Look,
yes.
It's 2023. I don't see gender, mate. Look, it's just you can see it. It's got like the little eyebrow like up there. So it's quite a charismatic kid, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So you're going to wait for the reprint. Anyway, that's it for part one. But coming up, 2 arrests over the Crooked House fire, unethical charities, and Sadiq calls us all Nazis. See you in 2 minutes.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Monday to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
When the news happens, it happens here.
And really important breaking news.
Breaking news this morning.
On TV, radio and online, the news starts here on Britain's Newsroom.
All the biggest stories and the answers that you need from across the UK and beyond.
Join Britain's Newsroom from 9:30 on GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
People in Britain, they love free speech, but they also love fair play.
I don't care if I'm speaking somebody from a trade union, from the Labour Party, somebody from the SNP. And I think the viewers like to see that actually we can challenge one another, but in a positive way.
We think we ask the questions that people want to ask, and often we ask the questions that we wanted to ask in Parliament but never got the chance to ask.
So join us every Saturday, 10 a.m. till noon on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, "Nah, stop arguing." I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment. I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Leo Kearse, and I'm still here with Francis Foster and Bruce Devlin. Anyway, cracking on with the Mirror now, with the scale of the migrant crisis reaching apocalyptic levels, Francis.
Well, yes, indeed. I mean, I'm just going to take you through a couple of the stats here. There's 175,000 people, 457 waiting for an initial decision on an application, 44% rise from 122,000 earlier this year. That's 175,000 people just in limbo. It's just completely nuts. And the amount of money that we're spending, 3.97 billion, at what point are we going to sort this out? At what point is somebody going to step in and actually implement something that means that we're going to begin to solve this problem?
Well, the trouble with the system at the moment is the asylum system just basically approves everybody, because everybody knows how to game the system. You can say, oh, I'm Christian, I'm LGBTQ, I can't be sent back. You tear up your passport, then you say I'm from Syria, I'm from wherever. So you can't be said. They can't send you back because they don't even know where you're coming from. But you know what buttons to press to get into the system, even though you want to be an economic migrant. So the vast majority get approved, but because so many are being approved, it's not disincentivizing more people from making that crossing. And at some point, we've got to grasp the nettle and actually do something to stop people making these risky journeys. And for all that people say they're the most, sort of impoverished or the most, tortured and all the rest of it, the ones that make it all the way to the UK are ones who can pay people traffickers thousands and thousands of pounds to bring them here. So, by definition, they're not the most in need. And it's a real shame that our foreign aid budget is what's being spent on this. So we're actually getting a dividend. Instead of spending our foreign aid budget overseas, we're spending it in this country. So Britain's probably coming out on top. Even though it looks like a ridiculous amount of money, we're probably doing better out of this than if we were spending the foreign aid budget where it would do more good.
There you go. I mean, the problem is, as well, is that the way we talk about it, these people are illegal immigrants. It's illegal. They're breaking the law.
Yeah.
So there are people who are trying to get to this country by legal means, and they are essentially been at the back of the queue because people are cutting the queue, and we're accepting that. We're saying that it's fine and it's
and if there's one thing we won't accept in the UK, it's somebody jumping a queue.
Yeah, exactly.
We should start tutting.
Yes.
Maybe that's how we could solve this crisis. Start tutting at people jumping.
Very un-British.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, surely the first rule of becoming British is you
learn to queue.
Exactly. What we should do is we should be at the beach, and the moment these people come over, we just look at them, tut, and then just give a passive-aggressive comment.
Anyway, we've got the Telegraph now with claims that the migrant crisis is being made worse by charities behaving unethically, Bruce.
Yes, so this is Suella saying that some charities are politically motivated activists masquerading as humanitarians. In particular, she's taking a pop at Claire Mosley, who was the founder of Care for Cali. She's no longer a trustee of that charity due to, I think, financial inappropriate payments. Yeah, it described payments of £340,000 from the charity into her personal account.
Yeah.
Now, it's interesting because she was over in Belgium. She sounds quite a character. I wasn't familiar. But she was wandering around with pepper spray in Belgium, so maybe that's what she was spending some of the 340k on.
I mean, have you been to Belgium? Probably not a bad idea.
They beers? I mean, why does she need pepper spray?
I don't know.
Because it's Belgians, mate.
But then another thing, she threatened a volunteer. I shouldn't laugh at this, but she threatened a volunteer by saying, "I'm going to drag you out by your effing hair." And I was like, oh my goodness, because I looked at her hair and the first thing I thought was, that looks quite dry. So I don't know if she had hair jealousy from, whatever. But
did it remind you of Scotland, that little phrase, Bruce?
What, dry hair?
I'm going to drag you out by your
That's how
effing hair.
most business meetings end in Scotland.
yeah, I think that's kind of parental love, isn't it? If you don't get up and get rid of your skill, I'll drag you out by the effing hair.
Yeah, this £340,000 that was paid from the charity into her personal account, she swears it's very Father Ted. She says it was just resting in her account. It was something to save a little bit of money on transfer fees.
£3,000 on transfer. So I think there's a disparity. Yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me, to be perfectly honest with you. But I think it is kind of tit for tat because Suella doesn't like her because Claire doesn't like Suella's Rwanda project. So I think that's where a lot of this has come from.
Yeah, but these charities are working against the government and they're not behaving ethically. They're not behaving in the best interest of the people they're supposed to be helping because they're supposed to be making sure that people are safe. And they're encouraging people to make this journey, which, as we've seen in the past few weeks, people have died trying to cross the channel.
Well, this is a problem where people are so married to ideology that they don't actually see the reality of the situation. You should not be encouraging any single person to get into a dinghy to try to get to this country. Because if these people die, which some of them do on this journey, that is your fault.
Yeah.
That is your fault, and you need to take responsibility for that.
Yeah, so these charities have blood on their hands. Anyway, the Mail now, and Sadiq Khan says that anyone who doesn't like his ULEZ expansion is a COVID-denying conspiracy theorist Nazi. Or maybe they just don't like being shaken down for money for no apparent reason. Francis.
Well, our mayor, who is an absolute top-level legend, has said that if you disagree with the ULEZ, then you are a conspiracy theorist, you're an anti-vaxxer, you're a Nazi, you're a COVID denier, you're an anti-Semite, you're probably transphobic as well, all of this. And it's just unbelievable that our mayor, the mayor of this city, when people criticise a very divisive policy, which ULEZ is a policy that is going to be rolled out across this country, across this city.
Well, and across the country as well. They're doing it in other cities, and it's expanding into the suburbs of those cities as well.
Absolutely, into Greater London. This is happening when we have a cost of living crisis, when people's mortgages and rents are going through the roof, when their bills are going through the roof, when inflation is through the roof, food prices, you can't... What are you doing?
But it's also completely scientifically unnecessary because, I mean, it makes sense in the centre of a town where you've got congestion and you've got pollution. But in the suburbs, they're leafy, there's a lot more space between the cars. And also, we're all moving to electric cars over the next decade anyway, so there aren't going to be emissions on the roads. So the whole thing is ridiculous. And, I mean, this idea that, everybody that opposes the ULEZ scheme is an anti-vax or COVID denier, conspiracy theorist and Nazi. I mean, in my case, it's a lucky guess. But I think for most people, they're completely, they're completely separate issues.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a bit similar saying for those that voted for Brexit that they were racist or this, that and the next thing. It's a kind of homogenised thing. In Glasgow, they have tried to roll out the ULEZ, but unfortunately, I think it was 600 of the council's vehicles didn't pass the test. But that's a bit like, I remember with the COP COP26 thing, that they had delegates at Gleneagles, which is a really, really posh hotel, and they had a fleet of Teslas for them, but they didn't have charging points because they're not great infrastructure as is back up the road, and they had to get a diesel generator in which to power the car. So it kind of...
And drive the diesel generator. They had a truck dragging a diesel generator along behind the electric vehicles.
Yes, with Joe Biden on top of it and his entourage. So don't tell Greta.
Absolute madness. Anyway, we've got the Express now with a leaked apology over Prince Andrew, although it's not the worst leak Prince Andrew's been associated with, Bruce.
Well, I don't think he does leak. He has a rare condition, which means he can't omit anything from his armpits or anywhere else. So, yeah, this is Priti Patel has apologised to the King because she had intervened. She's trying to get the £3 million security back for Prince Andrew. And a lot of people are saying, well, hang on, why does this guy need £3 million? Because as far as we know, he has his pizzas delivered and doesn't leave the house. So, yeah, she's very embarrassed.
Yeah, and it's a whack of money, £3 million.
£3 million. The thing that I'm thinking about is what is going through Priti Patel's mind. You know, you're not the most popular person.
No.
You're quite frankly an atrocious Home Secretary.
Oh, she was great.
Yeah, what do you think is going to make you more loved by the British people? Do you know what? Prince Andrew. That's the one who's going to get me back into the mainstream. That's the person I am going to back so that I can become a relevant political figure again. Absolutely insane, mate.
He's always been proved innocent, though. I think we've got to remember that. Just like Kevin Spacey and OJ. Anyway, the Eye now and a development in the Crooked House fire saga as 2 men are arrested. Blimey, I hope their insurance covers prison tuck shop purchases, Francis.
Well, yes. So police have said that a 66-year-old man from Dudley and a 33-year-old man from Milton Keynes have been arrested over the blaze at the 18th century pub. Now, this is a beloved pub in Staffordshire, which is known as the Wonkiest Pub. It was built in the 18th century, a historic building. It was bought by a private buyer, and then I think something like 2 days later, it kind of burnt to the ground.
Yeah.
And then...
And it was on a day that they booked a band to play who were called, like, We Like Burning Pubs Down, or Gasoline and Matches, or something like that.
And they'd already pre-booked, like, bulldozers as well. And you're going, mate, you know, if you're going to do an arson scam... Allegedly.
Whoa,
okay. But, no, okay, it's a little bit far. But if you know, maybe do something that isn't as, as dodgy.
Yeah, and he did say if.
Yeah.
There's no... Obviously, this is a case that's going to go to trial by the looks of it, so we don't want to prejudice the case.
No, I don't think we should either.
Yeah.
But the private developer did buy it in which to demolish it, didn't he?
I don't know.
Or didn't they? Sorry, I don't know.
I mean, they certainly did demolish it after it was burnt down.
Yes.
They went in without permission. They went in and knocked down, because I think, it's a site of special cultural heritage or whatever.
Yes.
So, you can't just go in and knock it down. It's like the Leaning Tower of Pisa. But they did. And now there's a huge campaign to get it rebuilt in the original state and not remove the bricks from the site and all the rest of it.
Well, with the subsidence.
Yeah, I think they want to...
They want to recreate it. Right, OK, fair enough.
Which I don't know if you even can. How are you going to get a spirit level that goes sideways?
I don't know. Just get a British builder in, mate.
Or go at the charity shop.
Yeah, that's it for part 2. But coming up, we've got serial killers getting bank accounts, sexism in the NHS, and a tribunal rules that a common insult is transphobic. Find out which one after the weather.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers. Proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. A mixture of sunshine and showers to come on Friday, and a cooler feel for many, particularly across East Anglia and the southeast, where it's been quite warm and humid today, and we've seen a few thunderstorms as a result. This low pressure sitting across northern Scotland is still providing some heavy showers here, and they'll keep going through the night. Any of those showers still left across the southeast are fading away now, so much of England and Wales will become dry overnight, and it will be a cooler night, certainly than the past couple of nights for many. Temperatures well down into single figures in some rural locations. Most towns and cities about 10 or 11 to start Friday. Now, we will start off with a fair bit of sunshine, certainly over the Midlands, South Wales, much of northeast England too. Elsewhere, there'll be more of a mixture of sunshine and showers, and through the day, showers will develop more widely, but I still suspect a good chunk of the day will be dry, particularly for East Anglia and the southeast. The showers fairly well scattered, not particularly heavy, but it will be a fairly wet and increasingly windy day across the far north of Scotland, and everywhere fairly cool for the end of August, high teens for most at best. Saturday is a similar story. Again, yes, some sunshine, but plenty of showers. Showers on Saturday could be fairly heavy, quite slow moving in places, with the risk of thunder as well. Quite blustery across parts of Wales and southwest England. Another cool feeling day. Staying cool all weekend, but after some heavy showers on Saturday, should turn a bit drier for most of us.
That warm feeling inside. From Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
The Live Desk with me, Mark Longhurst.
And me, Pip Thompson. It's here Monday to Friday on GB News.
From midday, we'll bring you the news as it breaks, whenever it's happening and wherever it's happening, from across the UK and around the world.
Refreshing, feisty, but with a bit of fun too.
If it matters to you, we'll have it covered on TV, radio and online.
Join the Live Desk on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
So Jubes and Kerr, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views, and often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates. Do you not believe in prisons?
I don't believe in prisons.
I'm completely stunned. I guarantee you there'll be no spin, no bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In a world of dull and predictable radio and TV shows.
Oh, hi. On Mark Dolan tonight, we've got big guests. We drill into the big stories of the day. The show adds up to a brilliant listening and viewing experience. Mark Dolan Tonight is the most entertaining current affairs show ever, and that's a fact. That's Mark Dolan Tonight, Friday, Saturday and Sunday from 9. Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often they will be difficult stories, stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Telegraph now, and according to ethical bank bosses, serial killers are better than politicians. I actually think a few people might agree with this, Bruce.
So this is banking bosses let serial killer Rose West keep her account. Ethical, Co-op Bank, let West stay a customer after she'd murdered 10 women and girls. Now, I'm not laughing at any of it, but when they did say bosses at the Co-op, which has the slogan, ethical then, now and always, a wry smile did come over my mouth. The review came after the bank was embroiled in the scandal when its former chairman, Paul Flowers, a Methodist minister who had led the bank for 3 years, was filmed buying and using illegal drugs, including crystal meth, crack cocaine and ketamine. That sounds like the corporate I was doing last night. But
he did it in an ethical way.
He did it in an ethical way because, do you know what? He didn't have creepy eyes that followed you around the room. him, and he was a wanker. He was a nice man. What I didn't understand was the reason that they let this continue was because Rose's daughter was the main person using the bank account. So I didn't understand why Rose's daughter didn't have her own bank account.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't understand that either. And I mean, Francis, they've allowed Rose West to keep her account. Debanked Nigel Farage. And they've also declined services to feminist groups. So it doesn't seem that they're actually ethical. They're just going along with whatever the sort of fashionable thing, you know, whoever the sort of fashionable people to put the boot into, whether it's gender-critical feminists or Nigel Farage, they'll put the boot into them.
Well, you might not actually know this, Leo. The reason Rose West was allowed to keep her account is that because she voted Remain, she's pro-trans and she has pronouns in her bio. So, as a result of that, Rose, I mean, see, there was a couple of, she did, she has a past. We all do. But now she's a reformed character and she's a good person. Unlike Nigel, who is worse than a serial killer.
And there's a heavy layer of irony there, just in case anybody didn't pick up on that. We've got the Times now, and another mediocre male athlete is upset that he isn't being allowed to smash women's sporting records, Francis.
Well, yes, so this is to do with Emily Bridges. And Emily Bridges is a cyclist. And what Emily Bridges is... let's be fair. British Vogue named Emily one of the 25 powerhouse women, the only female athlete, right, in the British Vogue 25 powerhouse women was Emily, because she's a winner. And she started to reduce her testosterone levels in 2021. She has been barred from taking part against women, biological women.
Females.
Females, basically. And this is incredibly transphobic, and I agree. Why isn't Emily allowed to make women's sports more interesting?
Well, I think this is, I mean... It's ridiculous. You can identify as a woman, fair enough. We'll use the pronouns, great, we'll be polite and all the rest of it. But you can identify as a woman. You can't identify as a female athlete. That's something else. That's not fair.
Well,
it's obviously
life
not fair.
ain't fair, mate.
No, going through male puberty gives athletes incredible advantages. You get more muscle mass, you get stronger bones. It's easier. It's easier to parallel park outside the stadium.
Yeah.
There's a lot of advantages there, Francis.
She's got logic. It's all of these things, mate. So look, joking aside, it's absolutely ridiculous. But the more muscle mass, more bone, greater amount of bone density. Bigger, stronger, quicker. It's just ridiculous that we're having these conversations. And to then say, oh, look, this is, transphobic. And I mean, come on, really?
It's not transphobic. I'm absolutely happy to accept Emily as a woman, but not as a female athlete. There's just some lines where, I'm sorry that it's such a sacrifice, but if you really wanted to be an athlete so much, stay as a male, compete as a male. You can still compete, but just in the open category, which includes, males and whoever else wants to compete.
I don't understand why this is some examples of disgusting levels of prejudice. To me, it's completely nonsensical.
Well, staying with transphobia, we've got the Mail now, and a common insult has been ruled transphobic, even though it's biologically accurate, Bruce.
So, this is the word that begins with W and ends in R. I don't think I'm allowed to say it.
Wagner.
Kind of, yes. So it's, calling a transgendered woman a Wagner. You know what I mean.
That actually sounds worse than the actual
Okay, fine, allegedly. Discrimination because the insult commonly refers to men, the tribunal suggests. Now, I'm not trying to be disgusting, but I have female friends that use that same word themselves if they are, shall we say, trying to get off to sleep or having a nice time in the house. That kind of thing. But what they are saying here is that you are unable to use it. So this is to do with Miss Fisher, Amanda Fisher, was working at a bus company and someone had called her a...
W.
Yes, a W. There we go. And there's a whole host of other stuff where she felt she was bullied because she was trans. Someone was, you know, they'd kind of poked at her. Someone had driven a bus really. I don't know if she was on the road or in another bus, but someone had driven a bus very close to her.
That sounds like a worse thing to do than calling someone a word that begins
No,
with
it's
W.
words of violence, Leo.
Yeah, well, apparently so, because this tribunal has ruled that this word, which, as you say, I mean, I understood. I mean, it's often accompanied by a hand gesture.
Yes.
So, I mean, it does relate to the male anatomy.
Right.
But then she was born a male, so it's biologically accurate. It would have, you know, she could fulfill that motion should she desire to.
Yeah, absolutely. But the really interesting thing about this case is that the judge ruled that this didn't actually happen.
What do you mean?
So the judge actually said that, here we go, the incident had not actually occurred.
Oh, but he still ruled that if it had occurred,
Yeah.
it would have been transphobic.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, you know, Schrodinger's, Schrodinger's insult.
OK, well, we've got the Times now with a shocking example of sexism in the NHS. I mean, to be fair, it's not the worst thing the NHS has done this week, Francis.
Absolutely. This is a health visitor wins sex discrimination case after female boss told him to man up. So this is a man who, you're laughing, it's disgraceful. This is sexism in the workplace, Bruce. Right, take it seriously. So this is a man who was working in a female-dominated environment, qualified as a nurse, worked in the NHS for 20 years.
I think the male ones are called doctors.
And as a result, he would say that he was being bullied by his boss and gave numerous examples, saying that he was constantly being told that he was the butt of the joke. And his female boss told him to man up several times. He then started crying and then complained.
Did he start crying?
Probably, I don't know. I was just being facetious. And then he sued. And he won.
And he won?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, ladies, have a think about the way you talk to us, because we've got feelings too.
Bruce, do you think this is they're being like people are being too sensitive, or do you think it's great to see this equality and a man actually being the victim of sexism?
Yeah. I suppose, obviously, that's his lived experience, isn't it? So I can't speak for his feelings, but it's a bit like when guys go, oh, but I'm a red-blooded male.
Yeah.
Well, just because, you know, I mean, I don't have Pepto-Bismol going through my veins, you know, I've got red blood as well. So it's all that kind of stuff, and you're just like, but if that's what upset him, that's what upset him.
Yeah, and that's what the tribunal ruled. Anyway, The Guardian now, and apparently parents want more time reading to their children. What's the problem, Francis? Can't they find a book that isn't about fetish sex?
Well, it's apparently 33% of them are actually quite unsure about reading. They lack confidence to read to their children. So, look...
What, even in a kid's book?
Yeah, even in a kid's book.
It's got a picture of the dog.
I know. Look, stop shaming the illiterate.
They're not the toughest. They're not the toughest books.
No, they're not. Spot the dog. The dog sat on the mat. If you can't read that, mate, give up. So basically, they want more time to read with them, and they just feel slightly unconfident. I mean, there's not a great deal of going on in this story. I'm going to be honest with you.
But the thing is, I think they should have confidence. Like, you know, your child doesn't know what's in the book, so you can make it up.
Yeah, that is true.
It's like, I used to do that with my niece and nephew. I used to tell them about rats, mice and hamsters and all that kind of thing and whatever, and the cast of Neighbours, and, you know, we didn't need the text. Throw the text out.
Yeah, freestyle.
Your kids just want, I would imagine, some kind of parent bonding time and a laugh before they go to sleep.
Great advice there. Anyway, that's it for part 3, but coming up in the final section, we've got another benefit of climate change, James May being fired for being a white man, and Mizzy's back and badder than ever. See you in 2 minutes.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
Now then, Lee Anderson here. Join me on GB News on my show, The Real World, every Friday at 7 p.m.
I'm not eating bloody cat. Are you
Delicious.
mental?
Open your mouth. OK, here comes a train.
Reminds me of the scene in Singing in the Rain.
Adam, is that a good one?
Whoa! Join me at 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. We've got the Independent now, and Mizzy's back. Doesn't sound like he's learned his lesson, though, Francis.
No, it's almost like his behaviour is being incentivised by all the money he's making online. So, TikTok star Mizzy says society's out to get me as he's bailed over prank videos. So he's on 3 counts of breaching a criminal behaviour order. But he's also now being accused of engaging in further criminal activities. And one of the alleged incidents took place when he visited the Westfield Centre in Stratford, which he's not allowed to do. But his excuse was he was unaware of the breach because he had not been given a map of the out-of-bounds area. Yes, Mizzy, because you don't have Google Maps on your phone. Yeah. You absolute... Anyway.
So, and there's a big sign on it saying Westfield. So you kind of know when you're in the Westfield Centre.
But to me, this just explains to me why our society is absolutely doomed. That you have this boy, moron, just going around committing these crimes, getting huge numbers of views online, and then he gets given a platform, and then we listen to him.
Are you a bit jealous because you've had to get your views by doing interviews with Jordan Peterson and stuff like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Doing well-thought-out content instead of just running into people's homes and stealing people's dogs.
Absolutely. What I should have been doing is pretending to be a dog on a McDonald's counter, 6 million views. And then I can go and interview Mizzy and then get another 12 million doing that.
And we're seeing it sort of catch on as a social contagion. We saw just a couple of weeks ago, there was the riots on Oxford Street where people mobbed sportswear shops. The bookshops were all right, but they robbed JD Sports, and it was all organised on TikTok and social media.
Oh, absolutely, and and as a result of that, people will see this and go, "Oh, look, this guy is doing something. He's gaining notoriety. He's gaining money for himself. Why don't I do that?" And like you said, they're not gonna. I doubt they're gonna go in and start, you know, stealing books because they can't read. So they're going to go to JD Sports and steal trainers.
They're also not going to steal Father's Day cards. Anyway, we've got the Metro now. James May says he was an early victim of wokeness, Bruce.
Yeah. So James May says he lost a huge TV job due to wokeness. He claimed wokeness cost him a job early in his career. The presenter, 60, was one of the highest paid stars of television. For 2 decades, he was a host of Top Gear and then the Grand Tour, but now he's insisted he was dropped from a Channel 4 motoring show for being a man. Now, I'm not necessarily sure, again, this is his lived reality, I understand that, but I'd listened to a Ruby Wax audiobook and she'd said that, funnily enough, when she hit 50, the BBC wanted rid of her.
Right.
And then for years she hated Louis Theroux because he was brought in. Because if you think, it was before
she did a similar.
But that was the whole thing. When I was listening to it, I was like, but yeah, you were a trailblazer for Louis Theroux. And then apparently she went and did a podcast with him, it was all fine. I can't help but think that maybe they just thought, James, you know, because Top Gear now in its most recent carnation is Flintoff and whoever else, and thingy from Friends.
And the original Top Gear people, you know, James May, Jeremy Clarkson, they've gone and done the Grand Tour on...
Yes. Which has been, I don't think that's anymore as well. But is it maybe the case that he just wasn't that great?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I guess any time I get cancelled, I always assume it's because of some sort of prejudice against me.
Have you been cancelled this week?
I don't know if I have this week. It's hard to tell because you've been cancelled. You only know when you get offered something. Yeah. I know when the phone doesn't ring anymore from certain comedy clubs.
Well, all the comedy clubs, Leo. But look, I just feel like I think we overuse this term woke and wokeness when there's certain things where it just doesn't apply. And because you didn't get a job or they decided to replace you, that doesn't mean that they're being woke.
I believe him. I believe all James Mays. Anyway, we've got the Times now with another benefit of climate change. It'll give us an excuse to nap at work, Francis.
Exactly. So Australians in manual jobs will need to take a siesta, mate. So basically, what it is, great accent, is the climate is going to get much hotter, and in places which already has a warm climate, it means that they're going to have to take siestas during the peak heat. So in Australia, they're not going to be able to work at certain times. And
so in Scotland, when it gets to 11 degrees centigrade, everybody's got to go inside because that's the peak.
No one works in Scotland anyway, mate. They just wait for a bailout from England. Probably shouldn't have done that joke. Surrounded by two Scots. Oh, of course you both work. That's why you're in London. Anyway, carry on.
We've got the Telegraph now reporting on a vegetable shortage. Bruce, this feels like another hate crime against...
Oh, for goodness
that one
sake.
affects Scotland.
Yes, the casual racism is just going down a storm. It's really funny, actually, because I was out for dinner ahead of work last night and someone didn't order this on their pizza because they weren't sure. So there is Waitrose are hit by a middle-class vegetable shortage of artichokes.
Right.
And this has been upsetting people because the demand for artichokes soared during the pandemic as shoppers were stuck at home to create Mediterranean-style meals such as ottolenghi's boiled version with pink peppercorn aioli.
You can't just do a tomato sauce and some spaghetti.
Or some sardines or, you know, a bit of tuna and salad cream and sweet corn or whatever.
Waitrose has really been suffering from... I shop at Waitrose just because it's the nearest supermarket to me. And
it's because you're doing a lot better now.
Quite often, and also the ready meals in Waitrose aren't as good as... I was always told Waitrose is the best thing. Anyway, we're going to have to come out of this. The show is nearly over, so let's take another quick look at Friday's front pages. The Daily Mail leads with Putin's chilling taunt over his rival's mistakes. The Sun has, with deepest sympathy, so sorry I killed him, Putin being sarcastic there. The Guardian has, US says bomb likely cause of Prigozhin crash. The Express leads with Prime Minister vast £4 billion spend on asylum is unacceptable. The iNews has bomb blew up Putin critic's jet, who's a bit more than a critic. And finally, the Daily Star has Curse of the Spooky Child. And those were your front pages. And that's all we have time for. Thank you to my guests, Francis Foster and Bruce Devlin. I'll be back tomorrow at 11 p.m. with Lewis Schaefer and Paul Cox. And if you're watching at 5 a.m, stay tuned for breakfast. Bye.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, proud sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening, I'm Alex Deakin. This is your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. A mixture of sunshine and showers to come on Friday, and a cooler feel for many, particularly across East Anglia and the southeast, where it's been quite warm and humid today, and we've seen a few thunderstorms as a result. This low pressure sitting across northern Scotland is still providing some heavy showers here, and they'll keep going through the night. Any of those showers still left across the southeast are fading away now, so much of England and Wales will become dry overnight, and it will be a cooler night, certainly than the past couple of nights for many. Temperatures well down into single figures in some rural locations. Most towns and cities about 10 or 11 to start Friday. Now, we will start off with a fair bit of sunshine, certainly over the Midlands, South Wales, much of northeast England too. Elsewhere, there'll be more of a mixture of sunshine and showers, and through the day, showers will develop more widely, but I still suspect a good chunk of the day will be dry, particularly for East Anglia and the southeast. The showers fairly well scattered, not particularly heavy, but it will be a fairly wet and increasingly windy day across the far north of Scotland, and everywhere fairly cool for the end of August, high teens for most at best. Saturday is a similar story. Again, yes, some sunshine, but plenty of showers. Showers on Saturday could be fairly heavy, quite slow moving in places, with the risk of thunder as well. Quite blustery across parts of Wales and southwest England. Another cool feeling day. Staying cool all weekend, but after some heavy showers on Saturday, should turn a bit drier for most of us.
Looks like